Democracy in Africa is very fragile. The continent is no stranger to military coups. From the year 1950 to 2022, there were 456 attempted coups worldwide, and out of these coups, 214 was on the African continent. Sudan tops the list of African countries with the most coups. Since the country's independence, it has experienced a total number of 18 coups, with 6 of them being successful. The most recent coup staged in Sudan was the attempted coup of 2023, dubbed the Sudan 2023 crisis by some sections of the media. The struggle for power between the SAF, that is the Sudanese Armed Forces, and the RSF, the Rapid Support Forces, was the reason behind this crisis. Burkina Faso has had 8 successful coups since independence, and this makes it the African country with the most successful coups. This includes the most recent coup in 2022 that brought in Captain Ibrahim Traoré into power. Nigeria, Africa's most populous and influential nation, has had a long history with coups following its independence in 1960. Nigeria has had 8 coup attempts, with 6 of them being successful. Nigeria, since 1999, has transferred power through fairly democratic elections and has helped usher in an era of greater stability in the ECOWAS region and in Africa in general. In recent times, the Sahel region, where the French African Empire once flourished, has been the stage for a growing trend of military takeovers. Countries like Mali, Guinea, Burkina Faso, Chad, Sudan, and more recently, Niger, have all experienced coups in the last 6 years. These military governments, headed by young officers, claim that their motivating factor is the feelings of the democratically elected governments they deposed, and also claim to be motivated to break free from the neo-colonialist agendas of France and the West. These new governments have found a partner in Russia through the activities of the Wagner Group. The situation in the Sahel region has created problems for both the ECOWAS and African Union member states. Could this trend have far-reaching implications for the African continent and the established order of international politics? Without much talk, let's dive in. Democracy in Africa is a diverse and evolving concept, as the continent consists of 54 countries, each with its own unique history, political systems, and challenges. Since gaining independence from colonial rule in the mid-20th century, African countries have experienced various forms of governance, ranging from autocratic rule to democratic systems. Since the turn of the century, African countries have largely practiced democracy and have tried to nurture its growth. In the past 60 years, there have been a growing trend, particularly in the Sahel region of the continent, of autocratic military rule toppling the democratically elected governments. To truly understand why there is a sudden rise in military takeovers, we must understand the peculiar circumstances surrounding the countries involved. The countries of Guinea, whose Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya ousted the former president Alpha Condé in September 2021, Mali, where Assimi Goïta removed President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta in August 2020, Burkina Faso, where Captain Ibrahim Traoré seized power, and Niger, where the presidential guards led by General Abdourahmani deposed President Bazoum, all have similar experiences, having been former French colonies. The countries of Sudan and Chad have distinct reasons why the military struck and will be explained differently. The quartet of Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Guinea have been under the yoke of France since they were granted a false independence. France, in its bid to maintain control over its former territories, have been guilty of a lot of atrocities. France maintains high military presence in its former colonies even after independence, which is regularly used to influence the political dynamics, which may not always align with the interests of France. In the wake of the military juntas of both Burkina Faso and Niger, French soldiers were immediately expelled from the countries. France also created the CFA franc, a currency used in many francophone African countries. This currency has been a subject of contention. The currency is pegged to the euro and is controlled by the French treasury. In order to keep the currency relevant, observers say that France prevents the ECOWAS region from adopting its own currency called the ECO. The French also support authoritarian regimes like that of Paul Biya of Cameroon, who has stayed longer in power than I have been alive. It is very clear that France has supported and propped up undemocratic regimes in certain countries to maintain its influence, often disregarding the aspirations of the local people. In Guinea, the military struck after the French-backed President Alpha Condé changed the constitution to circumvent the term limits that would have prevented him from standing for a third term. This triggered widespread political instability, and in September 2021, Condé was deposed. The natural resources of these former colonies was also exploited with reckless abandon by France. The French largely prevents efforts by these countries to industrialize, ensuring that their economies remained extractive to feed the French industries with the needed raw materials. Mali, a gold mining country and a former French colony, is a major exporter of gold to both the United States and France. But funny enough, Mali has no gold in its own reserve, while France, that has no single gold mine within its territory, boasts of a gold reserve with the value of 153 billion US dollars as of May 2023. Another country in the Sahel region of Africa that is under a military system of government is the Republic of Chad. The Republic of Chad still maintains cordial relationship with France because the country's interest is being satisfied. The Chadian leader, General Mahamat Deby, is the son of former President Idriss Deby, who died on the battleground in April 2021. The Chadian parliament, government, and constitution was dissolved, and this allowed a transitional military council to be formed with General Deby as its chairman. This move essentially turned Chad into a monarchy. Out of the countries currently under military rule in the Sahel region, Sudan is the only country not to have been colonized by the French. Instead, the country was colonized through a Dao colonial government known as the Anglo-Egyptian Condominium from 1899 to 1956. The country has been engulfed in political instability for a long while, and just in the months preceding 2019, a pro-democracy movement, which was a mix of groups including professional unions, political parties, and youth groups, won the removal of long-time ruler al-Bashir. It was only a partial victory, with protesters unable to push the military completely out of politics. Right after his ouster, the military seized power for itself. The country is still embroiled in political crisis as different arms of the military still jostle for political power. International observers and think tanks have been pointing to the extreme security and governance challenges in the Sahel region of Africa. The Economist Intelligence Unit, in its Democracy Index of 2019, had suggested that there was a steady decline in the quality of democratic governance in the Sahel region. The domino effect that is resulting from the toppling of democratic governments in the region was always a matter of when and not if. The way the civilian populations in the countries of the ever-changing political landscape of the Sahel region have reacted are quite different. In Chad and Sudan, the peoples of these nations yearn and hope for a return to democratic governance where the people's choice would prevail. In the former French colonies of Niger, Mali, Guinea, and Burkina Faso, the reaction of the civilian population to the military takeover is filled with joy and appreciation for the soldiers whom they believe is helping them break free from the tyranny of France and their puppet governments. In Niger, the citizens reacted to the news of the military takeover in July 2023 by storming the French embassy and destroying its properties. Following the latest purge in the West African country of Niger, the politics of the Sahel region has been thrust into the limelight because of the involvement of actors like the ECOWAS, France, Russia, Nigeria, and other countries in North Africa. During the tenure of the immediate past chairman of ECOWAS, Ghanaian President Akufo-Addo, the region experienced 3 coups in Mali, Guinea, and Burkina Faso. Following the Malian purge in August 2020, the ECOWAS reacted decisively by imposing sanctions on the members of the junta. The regional body closed its borders with the country and froze its assets at the Central Bank of West African States, and also imposed an embargo on trade with Mali. In Guinea, the regional body of ECOWAS also reacted in a similar way they did with the junta in Mali. The body, in accordance with the 2001 Protocol on Good Governance and Democracy, suspended Guinea's membership and demanded the coup plotters return constitutional order in Guinea or face more sanctions. The same steps were taken in the wake of Burkina Faso's coup in 2022. Following Nigeria's election and the emergence of Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the Nigerian president, he took up the mantle of ECOWAS chairmanship following the expiration of his Ghanaian counterpart's tenure. Shortly into his reign, Niger's General Abdurrahmani Tichani took over power from Bazoum in a coup, and as things are developing, the ECOWAS leadership is considering the next action, which may involve a military action. This situation has attracted attention from the world powers as Russia, France, and the United States all seem to be drawn to the conflict. France, who failed to condemn the military takeover in Chad because of its close working relationship with the military leadership, seems to want to pretend to be a crusader for democracy, and they swiftly condemned the military coup in Niger. The United States is drawn into the political conflict in Niger because of its investment in the country. The Niger Air Base 201 is a United States drone air base near Agadez in Niger. The air base cost about $100 million to construct and is described as the largest construction project led by the United States Air Force. Naturally, everyone would want to protect their investment. In the wake of the military takeover, the United States Vice President Kamala Harris tweeted that she put a call through to the Nigerian President Tinubu, who assured her of Nigeria's commitment by the virtue of its leadership position in the ECOWAS and will protect democracy in the region. Russia in recent years has become a major player in the Sahel region and is seeking to build its interest on the African continent by replacing France. Russia, through its private military organization, the Wagner Group, has made its stance very clear. All the newly established military governments claim to have been allied with Russia. Russia, in its recently held Africa-Russia summit, also forgave about $23 billion debts owed by African nations. Russia also made it known that it has recently signed agreements for military cooperation with over 40 African countries. This Russian support has also seen the military governments of Mali, Burkina Faso, Guinea, and Niger to issue a joint statement stating that any attack on Niger would be an attack on them all. Democracy is advocated to be the ideal form of governance in the world over, and in Africa, democracy can definitely help to improve governance. With democracy, concepts like human rights and freedom of speech is advocated for, while economic development, transparency, and corruption control can be achieved. All these can be achieved if democracy is practiced right. But in most African countries, democracy is practiced at the face value. With weak institutions, corruption, ethnic rivalry, and external influences, the democracy practiced in Africa is quite different from what is practiced worldwide. With these evident failures of democracy, it is hardly surprising that the military is taking advantage of the political situation to claim power. These officers seem to have the backing of their people, and even though, in my opinion, military rule is never cool, the citizens of the countries of Niger, Mali, Guinea, and Burkina Faso seem to be happy for now. The ECOWAS and the West should remember the concept of sovereignty and leave them to chart their own destiny. I doubt if these countries were not rich in gold, uranium, and lithium that France and the United States would give a damn.